I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm sure Russ will be here in a minute. It's all right with you guys. All right, anybody here for the commissioners' public forum? All right, hearing none. Paul, I know your internet's down, so I asked Cameron if he would do the warrants and abatements in minutes. Okay,
that's fine. Sure. Yep.
Perfect. Cameron.
All right. So the warrants for review and signature on February 8th, 2022. Commissioner salaries, $500. Amazon truck seat covers and running boards, $332.56. Franklin Electric for the intrinsically safe panel, $1,107. Osterman for propane on January 20th, $1,838.70. Vandy Auto Supply for truck supplies, $47.37. Veolia for December 2021 monthly services, $56,050. Cosgrove and Blatt services for Santos Propane on December 31st, $594. Another Cosgrove and Blatt services for Santos Propane, $414. WB Mason for office supplies, $6.57. Woodard and Kern Scada services through January 7th, 2022, $30,171. And then EJ Prescott for the MXUs, $2,260.08, bringing to a total of $93,321.28.
Thank you. I get a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes of the warrants as printed.
Second.
Well, we didn't vote on the warrants yet, did we?
We're doing the warrants now, Paul.
Oh, okay.
We didn't do the minutes yet.
Yep.
Was there a
You
second?
need a second?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
Paul, can you please second that?
Yep.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagnon,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Can we get a motion for the minutes now?
I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes as printed.
I'll second that.
Okay. Roll call vote, Peter, please.
Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagnon,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
All right, on to our scheduled appointments. 6:35, Veolia.
Yes, so we have a few things going on from Veolia today. I think the first two are Vinny's gonna take care of, and that'll be discussing the monthly operating report for December. And then Vinny will give us an update on the Scada project.
Correct. Okay, starting with the monthly operating report for December 2021. The plant was fully staffed with myself, Dylan Moriarty, and Patrick Adams. For health and safety, the safety checklists were completed. Hand sanitizer and antibacterial wipes are located at key points in the plant. The monthly inspection report was completed on December 6th. The training for the month was on bloodborne pathogens, safety in the workplace. We also did office safety provided by the VNA University. And we did training for lockout tagout, which was called Put a Lock on Hazardous Energy. Compliance for the month. December, there were no violations to report. The DMR was entered into the CDX on 12/15, and it was also mailed that day. Operations and maintenance activities. We installed the new plant water pump with a new check valve. We cleaned the headworks grit chamber. Slim Sewer Service helped us with that. So we finally got all the new parts in, and it was better to suck it all out and start clean. We ordered a spare chemical pump. It's a peristaltic style pump, and we use them for many different chemicals throughout the plant. So we needed a spare one because we used our spare. We ordered the Hawk flow equipment that you previously approved for monitoring the collection system. The HVAC system was upgraded. The contractors were here for 3 days. They installed wall units in the lab and operations office, and then they installed ceiling mounted cassettes in the town office and the front hallway. Renault Electric came in. They wired the new plant water pump. They troubleshot the grit system, and they also replaced a couple of bad light switches we had. Collection system activities. On December 1st, we were called out to 211 Sunset for a grinder pump alarm. When we got there, we discovered the pump chamber was overflowing. We isolated the tank to stop the flow, and we reported the sanitary sewer overflow as we should have. Upon inspecting it, we realized it was the street side check valve that was bad, and we replaced it with the assistance of the town on December 7th. The highway department came out and dug that for us. We had Slims come out and suck out the pump chamber at that same time, so we didn't have any water to deal with. And the Veolia crew installed all the new check valve pods. The house is vacant during the winter, so there was no issue with shutting off the service. There was no complaints or anything. It all went pretty smooth. We did a site inspection at 60 City Depot Road, the second house on the left if you drive by it this week. They tied in the sewer back in December on the second house. Pump station activities. We did our daily rounds to the 4 regular stations, which is both MTAs, the Route 20 station, and North Main Street. We did weekly alarm testing at every station. Monthly generator checklists were completed. We changed a barrier oil on both pumps at Stevens Park Road. We cleaned the wet wells at North Sturbridge and Stevens Park. North Main Street, we pulled the pump apart and removed a whole bunch of wipes. And Stevens Park, we had to remove a bunch of wipes from that pump as well. In the month of December, we hauled 6 loads of sludge to Cranston for disposal. We ordered 275 gallons of sodium hydroxide. And we also ordered 4,000 gallons of ferric chloride in the month of December. Grinder pump calls. On 12/3, we went to 120 Glen Echo Shores, and we cleaned grease off the floats, and everything worked good. December 14th, we went to 12 Morton Station Road. We cleaned grease off the floats, and we also had Slims out there to clean the pump chamber. Also on 12/14, we went to 110 Glen Echo Shores, and we had to replace the pump. And on 12/17, we went to 6 Lakeview Drive and had Slims clean out the wet well for us. In December, there were 29 dig-safe requests, and that completes the MOR for December of 2021. Does anybody have any questions on it?
You already, Vinny.
All right, moving on. I have an update on the Scada project. Wooded, Carn, and LaFleur starting on the week of January 17th. Began the process of cutting over MCC panels 1 and 2 PLCs to the new Compact Logix PLC. We worked some extra hours on Thursday and Friday to get that cut over, so it was all done after hours, so there were no interruptions. The following week, Wooded and Carn was on site to do alarm troubleshooting related to nuisance alarms. And on Thursday and Friday, Wooded and Carn and LaFleur were back on site of that week to continue working on MCC 1. And they pulled in a lot of new signals and IO. They also hooked up the new Hawk equipment, the alkalinity analyzer. And they coordinated to cut in Headworks' new panel on the following week. On January 31st, they cut over the Headworks panel, the new PLC, and got all that up and running. LaFleur carried out the demolition work in the Headworks area, while Woodard and Curran worked on the HMI computers. Terminated and relocated all of the analyzers and probes that we had on the punch list, as well as they had to run a new Ethernet link up in the controls office for the second SCADA computer. And that's about it for the update. The remaining work, they're gonna complete on February 14th. They gotta clean up inside MCC panels 1 and 2. And Woodard and Curran will be on site to do the OIT in the MCC cabinets, the operator interface. And they're also gonna finish setting up the operations office computer at that time. And LaFleur probably has a couple of days worth of demo and cleanup left. And that's the SCADA up.
Vinny, is most of that stuff online already?
Yes,
Is it
we're
online?
running. All the new PLCs are up and running, installed. Everything's wired in that needed to get wired in. All the probes and sensors have all been wired in and moved. It's literally just like kind of buttoning up the end of it here.
Is it making your life any easier?
Not yet. My computer in my office isn't on yet.
Okay.
But the
All right.
new computer is really nice. It functions well. Woodard and Curran has been great through the process. You know, with any little requests I had, Rob's been trying to make them happen as he can. And yesterday I went through the whole SCADA computer and I made a whole list of items for him to kind of look at and see what he can do. And we're gonna, next time he's here.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
one of the last things we have to, I guess, make a final decision on is remote access to the SCADA. So the SCADA is gonna work well and give Vinny the ability to control a lot of parameters. But to get full functionality of it, we need to figure out how to have remote access to it. So whoever the operator on call will be able to, if they're not at the plant and they get an alarm, they will be able to look at the SCADA system, verify if the alarm is accurate and see and possibly make minor changes to the operation of the plant remotely. And with the old SCADA system, the Veolia had a iPad they used to use where they would just use log me in to connect remotely through the wireless network, which is kind of very insecure. And in today's day and age with cybersecurity not really the priority of a way to connect. One of the reasons
Is that stuff already included in the system, Pete? Or
it is
something?
not. It
Okay,
is not. And we didn't include it because everyone kind of does it their own different ways. So we've been talking to Woodard and Curran about providing remote access. And we've also been talking to our in-town IT, with Jeff Sorrell and also Micronet, who does a lot of the IT stuff for the town. Now, Woodard and Curran, when you start talking about remote access, it goes from what they need to install, such as firewalls and equipment, and it kind of balloons to annual licensing fees and then a contract agreement for them to operate the system and cover everything. And I think it might work for some treatment plants that might be a little bit more robust in the bigger SCADA system where they might need monthly services or monthly interaction from the operators to maybe make changes to the SCADA system to spend that kind of money to have that direct access. But I think with the system we're getting, with Vinny's input over the design of the system and the operations of it, I think we can, save some money and get just as good of a product from our kind of local IT department and get the same type of cybersecurity, just differently for a lot less money. So
Okay.
I'm working with Ken Hahn and Jeff Sorrell to identify what the cost will be for them to provide a laptop. for Veolia to use to get them remote access through the town's firewall and stuff like that. And after talking with Woodland and Curran and talking with Ken Hahn and Jeff, it seems like that's going to be the better way for us to go. That way there's no annual licensing fees and annual contract agreements to provide cybersecurity and remote access.
Yeah, perfect.
But I should be finalizing that hopefully by the end of this week. I'll be talking with Ken Hahn and Jeff and then just reviewing everything with Vinny and John and letting Veolia know what we plan on doing, making sure Veolia is comfortable with what we're using also, because they're the ones that are going to be hands-on with it and going from there.
Perfect. Anybody else have any more questions about the SCADA? All right, moving on to the Wright Pierce engineering study. Hi, John.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. So the first part of the reporting, or the first reporting period, Wright Pierce conducted some analysis for us. They reviewed all the shop drawings and expansion drawings throughout the history of the treatment plant up until May of 2009. They also began analyzing all the plant operating data that Vinny had provided. And in addition, the type and the amount of chemicals used at the treatment plant, and then developed a descriptive information on how the operation of the plant currently is performed. They did have a kickoff meeting internally with their process engineering team. That was the activities conducted to date. I did provide a summary report. I don't know if the board, Peter, has had a chance to review it. It's what I'm reading from as we speak. The activities for the next reporting period will confirm a lot of the influent data, particularly around nitrate, nitrogen species, including ammonia. They're also going to be reviewing the data at the intermediate locations, the equalization tanks, and the RBCs and the flow diversion structures. They'll also be reviewing the current O&M manual and the manufacturer's O&M manuals for the RBCs, as well as the headworks equipment. They plan to review the sodium hypochlorite, sodium hydroxide, ferric chloride, and the current chemical dosing system we have in place. They're also going to spend some time reviewing the energy usage at the plant, to include the blowers, the horsepowers, the airflow rates, the VFDs, and their operating parameters, and then summarize all of the current flows and loads to the treatment plant. I won't continue on, but basically phase 2 will be the meat of the analysis, and that is scheduled to be completed by the end of February. They're looking to submit a draft technical memo to us on March 4th. And then continuing to evaluate headwork screenings and ammonia removal alternatives in and around mid-March. There'll be a final draft evaluation report drafted on April 15th. But prior to that, they're looking to have a workshop with the town to discuss the alternatives that have developed to date. They're also looking to have a meeting with us to discuss, and Peter, I don't know if you've seen the schedule, but sometime around February 25th, to discuss future growth plans that the town may have, to be able to incorporate some of that in the analysis, particularly as it relates to the flow and loads projections. And then, like I said, they're proposing to have the draft evaluation report by April 15th, a review and comment period, and then a final report at the end of April, first week in May.
So John, just maybe to simplify things, so far they've just reviewed data. They've collected and reviewed data from the past 5 years, say, of the operation of the plant,
As well as the construction drawings and some of the O&M manuals.
Right, so they understand how the plant was built. how it was designed, how it was built, and how it's been operated. So now that they have that data, they're gonna start being more hands-on, maybe at the plant, working with Vinny, going over how things are actually operating and taking that information, overlaying that with the data, and after that, they'll go ahead and start working on improvements that can be made that they're gonna recommend for us to do to get the plant to operate more efficiently.
Correct. They'll take all of that information and they'll develop a list of alternatives, basically approaches, both from a technical as well as an operational, and provide that to us in a report. For,
John, when did you say that their flow and load projections are scheduled to be done?
they expect to have the summary of the existing flow and loads on February 18th. And then following that, the following week, they'd like to have a meeting to discuss future growth. To be able to incorporate kind of what we discussed before, you know, where we're at and where we think we're going to be in the future. And from that information, they're proposing to have a draft technical memo to kind of summarize everything Peter just described in a technical memo the first week in March, which will incorporate, again, the existing operation, the existing flow and loads, what the future flow and loads might look like in a technical memo.
Anybody else have any questions for John? All right. Hearing none. Moving on, Peter.
Yes, so our next appointment is 6:50 appointment with Treehouse. I believe Luke Ledger is online, is on the line, and you'll be, again, we're gonna be talking, he's gonna be giving us an update on the pre-treatment process. Back in August, the commission approved increasing their average daily flow from 10,000 gallons per day to 15,000 gallons per day. Again, a conditional approval to see how that goes. And I guess I'll let Luke go ahead and give an update on how things have been going there and how their pre-treatment system is working, and then we can talk about what you'd like to do for that additional 5,000 gallons per day that you previously gave conditional approval for. Hi, Luke.
How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good. Yeah, so we, I think 6 months ago, is that correct, that we upped it from 10,000 to 15. That really has helped us out significantly. We actually have had some, just in the recent past, mostly due to cold weather, some issues with our plant freezing up, and which has kind of impacted the amount that we're pre-treating that we're sending to you. I think we actually made it through that bad spell, and the plant's actually back up and running, and we're starting to ramp it back up again.
Where is that at? Where is that process at, Luke?
Our plant is located on our facility.
No, I know. Where's the
Okay.
ramping up as far as re-ramping the system back up? So I guess let me back up a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So, you know, you came to us 6 months ago looking for, you know, the 15,000 gallons. We gave you that provisional area, which we just talked about. When your pre-treatment facility goes down, what's your standard operating procedure as far as letting us know that system is off and you're sending us unpretreated waste? What's your protocol for that?
I believe that's actually through McClure. Notifies you guys. I think is our procedure.
No, the only thing we get from McClure, McClure has no responsibility for us for oversight on anything to do with Treehouse.
Okay.
The only thing McClure does is share your sampling data with us that they collect on your behalf, so we can identify what you've been sending us for flows and loads.
Okay. All right, so that will be,
They're not part of the operations as far as I'm concerned from the town side.
Mhm.
McClure has not had any involvement in the operation of that pretreatment system at all.
okay. That's noted. I will make sure to add into our operating procedures that we notify. Peter, would you be the person to notify?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Peter, do you know when the last sample from Treehouse was taken and what its readings were?
The last sample that I have data from is from January 6th. And again, I mean, the sample data kind of fluctuates quite a bit, as does the flow. I think the reading from January 6th seems like it was before the pretreatment system went offline, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so it went offline between January 6th and now.
Yeah, because I mean, that data is 5 weeks old, 4 weeks
Yeah.
old now, so.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, so Luke, I kind of I have some concerns about, again, how this whole thing has transpired and maybe the strength of the waste that we're seeing as far as the BOD goes.
Mhm.
Before the system went down, so I think in part of my recommendation in recommending that we go from 10,000 gallons a day to 15,000 gallons today was looking at the data from the pretreatment plant, and we were seeing readings, BOD readings below 400 or 500
Mhm.
from the pretreatment plant all through the summer, all through, August. Then as I look at the data, we get into September, October, and not only does your process waste BOD go 30% higher than average, but your pretreatment BOD data goes 3x times what we were seeing before.
Yep.
So that has a direct impact on our ability to meet our discharge limits to what we put out to the Katy Brook. Because to process that much BOD affects how we process the remaining ammonia that we get from the MTAs or
Gotcha.
from the rest of the system.
Mhm.
So I think this happened at a good time, because in the wintertime, our ammonia limit gets increased quite a bit. So we're able to handle what was sent to us. I think if this would have happened, if that pretreatment system would have gone down in July when our ammonia limit was at a 1.42, we would have had a much different scenario. And I think that's part of the reason why we agreed to do this conditional approval now, because we knew that ammonia limit got increased, and if something were to happen, we had a little bit of a cushion.
Gotcha.
So as far as the conditional approval goes, at this time, I can't recommend that we make it permanent based on what's happened and what we're seeing.
Mhm.
So I'm not sure where Treehouse is with what you guys have going on, where you're at with the pre-treatment system, if you're going to go and do the full build out, like which was initially planned. I mean, when Treehouse first talked about this pre-treatment system, what is currently sitting there is two different type of bio towers or bioreactors that were there as a pilot study to see which one was more efficient at removing BOD. And
Yep.
the final plan was to go ahead and do a full scale build out that would be capable of treating 25 or 30 gallons per day. And where we're at now, it seems like Treehouse has kind of pivoted on that idea a little bit, and you're more thinking about just keeping and operating what is there currently. Is what I've been told.
I think that's was probably the plan prior to seeing some of these high BOD levels. We have in the last several weeks gone back to Cambrian and gave them this new data that we have, which I think is really good that we went. It's not good, but it's good that we saw these high levels of BOD, because now we could go back to Cambrian and show them and discuss potential full build out with them.
Luke, are they still running the system for you on a daily basis, or are they off site now?
No, they run fully on a daily basis. They're not on site every single day, but they're remotely signed in if they're not on site and can fully run the plant off-site.
Do you know, are you back up and fully running 100% right now?
We are back up and running, yes, a fully 100%.
Okay.
We don't, like we said, we don't have, like Peter said, I think only back to January 6th is the data that we have. So we are lacking in a lot of data.
Anybody else from the board?
John or Vinny, do you know when our summer permit goes into effect?
Vinny, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. It's a stepped system for ammonia. So May 1st, we go to 3.6 milligrams per liter. And then June 1st, we go to our 1.42. But I had a quick question for Luke. Is there something you guys are discharging early in the morning?
Not that I would be aware of.
Is there like a cleaning regimen or something that happens in the morning?
For the most part, the cleanings get done throughout the day.
Because we get some dark stuff early in the morning at the plant,
Mhm.
and it smells a little hoppy. Now, I've never sampled it. I couldn't guarantee what it is, but it
Mhm.
goes away by about 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Pretty regular in the morning.
Okay.
But I'm not saying it's you guys. I was just curious.
Yeah, that's something I can look into. Primarily, our schedules, we brew 24 hours a day.
Okay.
Traditionally, it's usually Monday through Thursday. So cleanings and everything could be within any of that period of time, basically.
Okay, that's fine. I was just kind of curious what it was.
But Vinny, operationally, that EQ pump, that your EQ tank can pump out at various times, correct? So it's not like we get a steady flow from there. That EQ tank fills up and then it pumps out and then it refills.
Right.
So who knows when that could be hitting that point to pump out and send, or how
Yeah.
long it takes it to get through the system to get to us.
Yeah, Dylan just happened to notice it last week, and he said it smelled kind of hoppy and it was dark in color. And he had a sample, and it's a lot darker than what we typically see. But
I
it's
think
because he was coming in early a few days and happened to see it. I don't know, just coincidence or if a pump station sat all night. So I was just looking, maybe, you know, they were doing some cleaning that we didn't know about that was giving us dark material.
Right.
Do we know when the next sampling is going to be done?
It's done weekly on Thursdays, I believe.
Yeah, and given BOD is a 5-day test, the results should be generated within a week of the sample date. So
But I think the delay in getting the data is with not McClure getting it back from the lab or McClure entering it into the table. I don't believe it's the sampling per se, John.
Through the chair, if I could, this is Chris McClure. So I do have that data. I've had one of my product managers who tabulates that data and does QA/QC with COVID. So we are sampling every Thursday, and that data does come in. It's typically a Thursday. Sometimes we'll get it, depending upon how backed up the lab is, we'll get it that Thursday to following Monday. But we will get that data over to you as soon as possible. Get you up to get to the present. So it's an QC process now, but we'll see. Basically, we obviously didn't take samples from the plant during that period that was offline. So it would just be the standard process wastewater.
Anybody else from the board?
Sure, Peter, what are you recommending at this time, Peter? What are we doing here with Treehouse on this one?
I think it's important to, at this point, if the pretreatment system is back up and running, to maybe give a short-term conditional approval to continue with the additional 5,000 gallons per day, whether it's a 4 to 6 week approval. And that gives us time it gives me the time to meet with Luke and anyone else up at Treehouse, say myself and Vinny, to get up there and maybe, look at the operations again and really reiterate to Treehouse how important it is that any changes that they have in their operations because of the strength of their waste has a direct impact to the treatment process in our facility. And maybe revisit that and maybe come up with maybe additional layers of standard operating procedures that I don't want to say gets us more involved, but gets us more information on how things are going. Whether we need to get a weekly report from Cambrian, letting us know how that pretreatment system is going, or whether I need to go up there on a weekly basis and do just a visual inspection to make sure it's working correctly. The reason that additional 5,000 gallons per day was granted was because of that system operating well. And without that, it's going to put a strain on our treatment plant to meet our summer limits, and we can't do that. So I don't want us to get stuck, and I don't want Treehouse to get stuck because they get hit out of left field. So being upfront, again, the initial approval was always conditional because we wanted to make sure everything was working well. Unfortunately, we have some hiccups here. We need to kind of revisit how things are going. So I'm not sure we have to really say no at this point. I think, again, a 6 week conditional approval, while it might seem short, is something that allows Treehouse to still continue producing what they're producing, and it allows us to see how Treehouse reacts to what's happened and see if they can get things back in track. And if in 6 weeks we don't see improvement in the results we're getting, then unfortunately we'll have to go back to that 10,000 gallons per day and wait until we can be more assured that we won't be put in a situation again.
Why not just address this at our next meeting?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
Okay, we can do that. Well, because the original approval was only for 6 months, and that 6 months is up.
So we
I
extended out.
Yeah,
We extended out
Yeah.
another 6 weeks, conditional, or even another until our next meeting. And then just make a new course of action at our next meeting. And if things aren't headed in a favorable direction, then Luke, you have to realize that the town of Charlton is going to say, we can't help you in your request. And you're going to have to go backwards to what you were at before.
That's understood.
Chris, the samples that you'll be pulling out in the next 4 weeks before our next meeting, will we be able to get those results?
Yes, you'll get up to date. I expect to give you the reports that would get us back to the week before last by the time I leave here tonight. And then you will get, if the plant is on, well, Thursday we'll collect our next sample. So you will see the results of that EVB sample. You'll at least have 2 of them to review before your next meeting, 2 to 3 of them.
Yeah, Luke, do you know what date the plant came back online 100%?
Offhand, I couldn't exactly tell you that date. No, that's something I can look up and I can.
And was it 3 days ago, or was it like 4 weeks ago?
No, it was 3 weeks ago. Yeah, at least
weeks ago. So we should have some samples that have already been taken of the pre-treated stuff then, right?
Yes.
Through the chair, 3 weeks ago it went down, and now it was not back online when we were there last Thursday. So they were working on it diligently, you know, they were doing all the piping changes and whatnot. So the plant would be probably, Luke, correct? It just went online probably this week.
Well, because I took a drive up there this morning. I saw a ladder laying up against it and it looked open to me.
Yeah, we reseeded the reactor. I thought it was 2 weeks ago, but
Okay. We weren't able to pull a sample on Thursday, but I'll get, you know, I'll send along those operational details that we had.
yeah,
So we haven't had it. So have we not had a sample up there, Chris, for 4 weeks then?
We haven't had a, I'll have to pull my file up here. Just give me one second.
So, Mr. Chair, we get two results. We get one sampling result from their process waste, which is untreated, which has its own flow meter and everything. And then we get a second test result from the sample that's taken from the pre-treatment facility, which has its own meter, so we can track that flow as well. So when we look at the data, we can see the average daily flow for the process waste and the results from the sample, and we can also see the average daily flow from the pre-treatment facility and their sample results.
So the first day that we could not grab a sample from the pre-treatment plant was, let me just scroll over here, was January 13th. So the freeze up occurred part of that first cold snap early. We have a good sample on January 6th, and then upon arrival on the 13th, we were informed that the plant was down.
Can we ask what the results were?
And you haven't been able to take a sample since then, Chris?
As Peter indicated, we're sampling from the untreated wastewater, processed water, and yes, that's correct. We cannot collect one from the pre-treatment plant.
Okay.
Because it's inoperable. It wasn't working.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if I might.
Go ahead, Russ.
Peter, just in our general discussion here, I don't, I hope that we don't tax our own people, being you, running up to Treehouse every day, trying to develop a plan. I think that it's Luke's job to develop the plan, bring it to you and say, this is my plan moving forward. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to live life in Charlton, conform with the system, make improvements. Here it is, and we're going to follow it. And then you're going to say, yep, looks like a great plan. I'll talk to the board about it. And as long as you guys follow your plan, we should have no problems and we're good to go. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes, I guess my intent of stopping up there was just oversight only, so that it's easier to stay involved by being involved than just waiting to get data. So there's just a different way for me to make sure it's on the top of my priority list and don't get sidetracked and all of a sudden 3 weeks go by and kind of forget about it. So no, definitely. It's definitely on Luke's plate to come up with a solution.
Yep.
Most definitely.
Yep.
I kind of want to put it out there that I might be more of a presence up there, kind of stopping by to make sure that things are going well, so we don't this doesn't hit us like this again.
Very good. I'll make a motion that we extend out the conditional approval until our next meeting, when we will reevaluate and discuss it further.
Can I get
I'll
a second?
second it.
All right, Paul, second. Go ahead, Peter. Roll call vote, please.
All right, Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagner,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Great. Thank you, Luke. I'm sure we'll be in touch.
thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, Peter.
Yes, so we have a 7:15 appointment. Our next two appointments are with Langdon Engineering for two different projects. I believe John Perry from Langdon Engineering is on the call. First up, we're gonna be talking about 241 Sturbridge Road. The project's for approximately a single story, 1.2 million square foot facility down near the Sturbridge line, where that developer is going to have to extend the water line a small portion and the sewer line a little bit further. We finally received their final development drawings for those, and we got those over to McClure. And Chris McClure is on the call as well, so that he can provide some review for the board to consider. So I'll turn it over to John and let him give you a rundown of what he presented. He can share his screen if there's anything he wants to show you. And also on the call, I think it's Haley Palazzola from the development company. So
thanks, Peter. I'll take it away. So thanks everyone for having us in again to present the so you're all aware this is the warehouse project at 241 Sturbridge Road. I think Haley has been before you in the past to discuss the project in general terms and talk about requests for capacity for sewer water. It's a 1.2 million square foot dry goods storage distribution facility warehouse. So per Mass Title 5, we're looking for 15,000 gallons a day of capacity for water and sewer. And I'll put my screen up here to show you what we're proposing. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
yes.
Okay, great. So this is, let me put Google Earth up real quick here, just to make sure everyone is properly oriented with the project. So this here is the project site at 241 Sturbridge Road. What we're proposing is, running currently in Sturbridge Road, there's a 4-inch water line that comes down from the 10-inch. There's a 10-inch line that stops right around Mayberry Lane and turns into a 4-inch, so it comes down the way. So we're proposing to install a new 8-inch line to service our project, and we'd keep that 4-inch line in place until the 8-inch was installed and tested and approved and active, and then at that time we would abandon that 4-inch in place. And we are proposing also to install a private pump station on our site and discharge our sewer via force main from roughly where our driveway location would be, across from 240 Sturbridge Road, which is this building here. It's that physical therapist office, and that would propose a 6-inch force main, and that would extend about just shy of 4,000 feet up to the east into your gravity system, which starts right around here, which is the Charlton Plaza. And so this is the overall plan that we have as part of our package. This is the warehouse building here. This is our proposed site driveway. So our pump station would be here, and our water connection for the site would be, we'd tee in there as well to the new 8-inch line that we propose to bring down the street. The pump station, Peter and I have coordinated on this a bit in the past to basically design a pump station that is going to minimize the impact to the town system. So what we're proposing is a time dosed system And we would have proposing to pump basically overnight from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. The theory there is that, assuming most of your flow you receive into your system is during the day. So we would try to offset that to the extent we can. So we would have, and I'll go to the detail plan if you bear with me for a minute. This is our pump station detail. So we're proposing 2 holding tanks. They're each 7,500 gallons. So we would have, 7,500 gallons of holding storage for the daytime period, which is obviously half of the daily flow. And then we would discharge that overnight, as I mentioned before. And then the other 7,500 gallons is just emergency, storage, just in case we have a peak in there or something like that. And this would be hooked up to an emergency generator as well. So we've got some redundancy in there. That's the highlights. I'd be glad to get into any further detail or answer any questions.
John, can you talk about the laterals that you're leaving for the properties that you passed for the sewer extension?
Yep, exactly. So go back to that main sheet. It's a little tough to see at that scale, but we are proposing 2-inch laterals off of the force main. And we have a lateral basically for each property, between our site and where we tie in via gravity. Would be providing a lateral for number 240, Sturbridge Road, 221. There's a few lots that I believe are vacant lots. Just looking at Google Earth coming down the way. I think we have something like 14 laterals along the way. There clearly aren't that many, active sites there, I guess, but, planning for the future, right? So anticipating that those would probably be grinder pumps. I saw in your town standards, you want a 2-inch minimum force main for a grinder pump. So that's what we're proposing. We are also proposing a stub for number 240 Sturbridge Road for water as well. And we would be redoing the connection to Mayberry Lane for the water connection there as well, just to, that I think that connection comes off of the existing 10-inch line there. So we would be basically replicating that just to maintain their service, obviously.
I guess, do you want to let Chris McClure go first with his review, or do any board members have any questions at this time?
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear from Chris and then take questions from there.
I'll
Yeah,
stop
me too.
sharing.
Okay, good evening, folks. And I apologize, I was in the process. I just got these plans about a week ago. I will type up my review questions. But while I have John online, I'd just like to run a few things by him and also talk about the historical requirements by the commission and see what direction that commission is going to want to go with this type of project. So, John, if I could, is there a SIC code associated with this facility? Industrial code, and I ask that because of the potential need for an industrial discharge permit connection through the Mass DEP.
Nope, there's not.
There's not. Okay. And it's manufacturing. So I know there is is it a manufacturing facility, or is it just?
It's a warehouse, dry goods warehouse. Yep.
Dry goods warehouse. Okay.
Yep. So we used warehouse, with no cafeteria as the basis for the design flow. So I think 15 gallons a day per person, estimating 1,000 employees here.
Is there a tenant identified for it? Is that unknown, saying that's why it's going to be a warehouse?
Still unknown at this point, Chris.
Okay, so there's no potential for industrial use to go in there, and I guess if there was, they would have to come back in front of the commission for that.
Exactly. Yep.
All right, next question, is the connection subject to the sewer system extension requirements 314 CMR 7? John?
No, it does not appear to be.
Okay.
I guess
So-
just for the commission, that requirement would be that this extension would need DEP approval. So
Correct.
that the CMR that Chris is referencing has certain criteria where if there's a sewer line extension over so many feet for specific reasons, not only do you have to approve it as a commission, but Mass DEP also has to review it and approve it. So far it appears that this does not require DEP review or approval.
And just a couple items relative to that, if it's not required for a permit, and I know, John, you're aware of this, but the sewer extension has been designed in accordance with TR 16 and applicable department policies. So generally see that in the notes, but I'll bring that up, in part of my review. And that has been permitted by the local sewer authority, compliance with your local regional permit. And that it's if applicable, it's the requirements of NEPA and the Mass Historical Commission. And then lastly, and one that the commission should consider, obviously, with this type of project for sewer extension, that includes a privately owned pump station. Or such pump station shall satisfy the requirements imposed by the local or regional sewer authority and its permit for the ownership, operation, and maintenance, financial assurance for emergency repair, long-term replacement, or other conditions applicable to the pump station. So having I don't know if it's a set aside that the commission will require for this project, so that, an assurance, there's usually some sort of agreement that's put in place by the owner of this privately owned pump station. So if there was an issue with it and there was nobody there to maintain it, then you would have the funds set aside necessary to do any necessary emergency repairs in a situation like that. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. So when I bring it up, that you guys are aware of.
We'll have an O&M plan for the pump station, and I'm sure the property owner will need to have a contractor on board to maintain the pump station, do inspections, O&M.
Okay. So also historically in the past, the commission has required the applicant to review the infrastructure down gradient of the connection, i.e. you have that gravity sewer line, make sure it has enough capacity, obviously for this application, for this project, in addition to the other projects that will be potentially connecting down the road. You have, I know that Mayberry subdivision that is on its own private sewer, but as this project will be, performing that sewer extension, all of those adjacent property owners will be afforded a sewer lateral. So typically that hydraulic evaluation is conducted by the applicant, so that you have an assurance that the infrastructure down gradient of this project is able to meet the demands of this project. And that would also include the sewer pump station. It's on Route 20 where that gravity line discharges to. So I would expect that they have. John, have you looked at any of that infrastructure down gradient of?
We've been looking at the pump station on Route 20. And I know, Peter, you sent me some record plans and the pump readings, the run times a couple weeks ago. We're still in the process of crunching all that data. So that's ongoing. And we're planning to write up a technical memo with our findings on that. I will say that it does, it is a fairly small pump station, right? There's not a lot of, extra storage there. So we're looking at how the peak flows could line up with this development, 53 Sturbridge Road development, and the existing flows you have, seeing what, running a few different scenarios.
And again, like I said, I'm in the process of writing this up. And they do recommend adding, flow allowances for I&I as well, for any sewer extensions. So I don't know if that's in the sewer bylaws, if they're reviewing any of the area that to be tying into for potential I&I issues. Just another item that again, that I'll reference in my letter, but I just wanted to get that out there while we're meeting here. So and this goes for both the water and the sewer. What do you propose that this this infrastructure is going to be installed by a selected contractor by the proponent, or is it going to go out to bid? Because that has a lot to do with the information that's on the plans aren't very specific relative to testing requirements. And as everybody is aware, the water system needs to be designed and tested in accordance with the Southbridge Water Department. So I say that so we're not writing the contractors required to comply with these specifications by Southbridge. We call them out because every project that we do have and review in this town, there are a few issues that come about. And Peter, you can agree with me that one is that testing requirement that's really the onerous, and that's something that we want to leave the chance. So so what is, do you know what the plan is relative for bidding the water and sewer infrastructure work here?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Haley, but I believe the plan is for the developer's contractor to install these, both the water and the sewer.
Correct, John. Mhm.
So that being said, would they typically, John, create its specifications packets along with your plans to ensure that the contractor complies with that with the construction standards?
We have some abridged specifications in the plan set. I think it's like the third sheet of we have our standard technical notes, and then on the third sheet, some abridged specifications. We tried to follow the town specs as best we could there. If we need to add information regarding testing, if we went a little light on that, I'd be happy to add that there, or anything else we feel we need to get on there. We weren't planning to do a whole spec book for this. We could if the commission feels it's necessary, but we were gonna keep it a little more simple and keep the specs on the plans.
And again, I just knowing the issues that we have seen in the past, I think it's probably relevant, and maybe John from Veolia would provide some of the details that we see there. Maybe we do want to get those specifications laid out, so there aren't any surprises when the contractor does come into town, that he knows that there are going to be these non-AWWA standards, the TR16 standards that the town requires, that somewhat onerous when it comes right down to it. Okay, have the water extension plans been sent to the Southbridge Water Department? Yes, DPW down there. Are we waiting to go through this review, or?
Correct. Yeah, I've not sent them the extension plans yet.
Okay. And the relationship between, obviously the relationship between the two towns, John, that Southbridge is their DPW has the right to review. Yep. So probably get them to them as soon as possible, so that we're we can coordinate this.
Yep. We had some meetings with them a few months ago. It was, I guess the main focus was on the fire service, but we definitely talked about the project overall, and so they should be well aware of what we want to do. We were planning to, I know we need there's a separate application to Southbridge that we're preparing.
Sure. And then the last topic, and Peter, I wanted to run this by you. As you're aware, it looks like, John, you're looking to put the water main within the right of way underneath the road base. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Because we have had some issues in town relative to corrosion in these CLDI pipes, specifically where the water lines are running down the side of the road, where the states typically put in their drainage, perimeter drains or road edge drains, and due to the fact that it is a heavily salted area, we're seeing these standards CLDI pipes. They're getting they're aging or corroding or deteriorating prematurely. So depending upon where this is located, Peter and the commission, there may be some, it may be prudent to look at that, the coating of that pipe to see if this does warrant that extra. And Peter, where was that last issue that we had? Wasn't it on that far end of Route 20 where they had some corrosion of that ductile iron pipe?
They had to replace a section of the 4-inch main a couple of summers ago near the state police barracks.
Okay.
And then the 12-inch on Route 20 further east near Northside Road and near Old Worcester Road. So I guess along those lines, John, maybe when the constructors the contractors digging to install, we do a corrosivity test of the soil to see what's going on there with the groundwater, to see if there's any signs of corrosion, any levels of salt in the groundwater, any type of other issues or constituents there that would lead to premature failure for that.
We know there's going to be high groundwater table in that area, so yeah, maybe taking samples in that, just so we don't run into. And just some backstory, John. It's just piping that is not that old, 10, 15 years old is developing leaks. It's basically premature failure, and we haven't been able to ascertain, other than this location, ascertain what the potential issue is. So,
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. Just to answer your question about, I guess, location, horizontal location relative to the road, it is going to be, so the current 4-inch main is in the shoulder. So it's not under the pavement. I believe it's in the grass strip. We're going to be inbound of that with the 8-inch, because we're going to leave that 4-inch in place. So we're going to be on the other side. There's no room really to go on the opposite side of the 4-inch, because in a lot of cases there's a slope there. We have to cross the culvert near McKinstry Brook. So we'll be inbound of that by a couple feet, and then also the roads being widened and the general, I guess, length of the water line as well, by a couple feet on each side. So we will be inbound of the pavement. I guess better way to put it is we'll be under the pavement in this case. So maybe you won't get as much salt leaching into where the pipe will be, but I don't see an issue with thinking about testing the soil.
Thank you.
all right, well, that's what I have as an overview. Again, I'll be typing up those and some additional comments. I appreciate you being here to answer these questions, and I'll leave it back to the commission at this time.
John, can you just
Question for
explain?
Chris,
Go ahead.
if I might. Chris, how long before you would have your initial report and peer review typed up?
I'm hoping by the end of next week, Russ, is when I have it. I just kind of get it in front of get it in front of my other engineer, and then we can get it typed up. So.
Yep. Okay.
Our-
Thank you,
our
Chris.
next- Sorry to interrupt. Just so everyone's kind of aware of our schedule. Our next, I guess, big step here is we want to get this in front of Mass DOT. for the construction access permit to install the water. So we were waiting to, get, I guess, general approval from this commission and wait to get your review letter, Chris, I guess, and make sure that everyone's comfortable with the design, so we can do that. So that's going to be the next thing we do.
John, can you explain why on the sewer force main you went from 4-inch to 6-inch?
Yeah. We had a 4-inch and we were sizing the pump, and, with the smaller your force main is, the more friction head you deal with. And with a 4,000 foot force main, we were getting a lot of friction head with the 4-inch pipe. And the pumps that we were looking at speccing, we were able to get the GPM versus the total dynamic head we needed, but it was a very inefficient pump. So we did some, we looked at some different size force mains and different, pump rates. And what we came up with was that the 6-inch force main, with the, I think it's a 275 gallon a minute discharge rate, was optimal from a efficient, pump efficiency standpoint. And I think ideally we would have maybe wanted to be a little less with the GPM, but we wouldn't have been meeting our 3 feet per second velocity that we want to maintain. So that's why that's the reasoning.
Okay. And how does that affect what type of grinder pump systems other abutters would have to use to connect to that line?
It really shouldn't affect them. We're giving them a 2-inch lateral, and as long as the grinder pump they have is adequate to overcome the pressure in that force main, which isn't actually all that great, and it, kind of drops as you get further from the pump, they shouldn't have a problem. And most grinder pumps I know, have a good amount of power to overcome that type of head.
Do you know what the proposed head pressure will be in that 6-inch main?
I do. If you give me 1 second, I think I can pull it up. You know what? It might be in our details. Give me 1 second here. Yeah, it's 37 PSI.
So that wouldn't require any type of special grinder pump for a residential home to connect to.
I don't think so. I think if they had like an E1 pump or something like that, they'd be fine.
The ones in our system now have a max pressure of 40 PSI.
Thank you for that, Vinny.
So that's pretty close.
Yeah, and again, that pressure is at the pump, right? We calculate it at the actual bottom of the tank at the pump. So it would be, you'd have less pressure in the force main.
This pump station has 2 pumps, correct?
Yes.
Can they both run at the same time?
They're not proposed to do so. They'd be duplex, pumps, alternating pumps.
Okay, because if they both run at the same time, that's more than the plant can handle at max flow.
Yep. No, we wouldn't propose to do that.
So that's at the plant, but you're going to be pumping this to another pump station, right? Can that pump station handle 275 gallons per minute?
Well, that's what we're looking at. The pumps in that pump station, based on the information I have, pump at 150 gallons a minute. So we're obviously pumping more gallons per minute than those. But what we're looking at is the volume of that pump station adequate? We're doing very small doses, right? We're doing, well, I say very small, relatively small. We're pumping at 270 gallons a minute but for only 2.3 minutes. So we were limiting our dose to 625 gallons. So we're only putting 625 gallons into that pump station every 30 minutes overnight. So what we're looking at right now is does the wet well have enough volume, and can the existing pumps keep up?
And that's with just you sending water to that pump station, right? I mean, there's other people that are connected there that are going to be sending at the same time, right?
We are including, so Peter gave us the run times of that pump station for the last 4 months. So we're using that data as an existing flow. And then we're applying a peak factor. And then we're including a peak flow rate from 241 Sturbridge Road, and we're applying a peak factor from 53 Sturbridge Road as well.
But how
Not
about
including anything, in the future, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's what I was just gonna say. I mean, that sewer line that you guys are gonna be putting in, I mean, I'm assuming it's gonna run in front of us several properties, no? That could now
Yes.
connect, right? So
Yes.
they're gonna be possibly sending water to us in the future also. So I
If
guess
there
I
is something
see,
else. Yep.
yeah, so I guess I see that pump station is a concern and a bottleneck now
is.
and definitely in the future.
It is, and again, I'm still crunching the numbers on that, but a potential solution we see if needed is, I think you have space there to add a holding tank or an equalization tank, a little more volume. And we can look at that, and then we can also look at
Could we connect to
increasing
the,
I was going to say increasing the replacing the pumps, maybe going to a higher flow rate in the pumps.
Yeah, but we
Go
still
ahead,
need
John.
a call time on that. I mean, we have 1 hour to respond, and that's the smallest wet well in our system.
Yep. So ideally, you'd want obviously more storage volume there.
what's the force main coming out of that station, Vinny?
It's a 4-inch.
Or
John, how much can that 4-inch pipe hold? Is that
The 4-inch it's a function of the pumps. I'm not concerned about putting a 6-inch force main and then going to a 4-inch force main, because it's all about how it's really about the volume that we're pumping into the wet well, and making sure we plus all the other flow going in there doesn't exceed the volume, and making sure the pumps can keep up.
well, we already know it can't. Right.
It looks like it's pretty close. So we're, again, that's part of our analysis. Have you had issues? Have you had issues with that in the past? That pump station, that wet well, has it overflowed ever? I'm
Really
curious to
small,
see.
so it doesn't give us a whole lot of emergency response time.
Yep.
I mean,
Well, no, to answer your question, John, it has not overflowed, but as you mentioned, with both projects coming online, we're talking an additional 15,000, 20,000 gallons per day going through that pump station.
Yeah,
And
probably more. Actually, like, yeah.
And more than that, it's if there's an issue at that pump station where both pumps are down, and those two projects continue to pump, there's definitely not enough capacity to give an hour call time for someone to get there and fix the problem.
yeah, perhaps we
So-
can do
so-
an interlock, something that reports back to your pump station because you do have holding capacity there, correct? You said an additional 7,500.
We do.
Yeah, that might be part of it, John. That might be maybe a redundancy as well as maybe adding capacity or seeing what John comes up with for possible improvements to that pump station, our pump station as well.
John, is
Either
that
way,
the,
Yeah, because
Is that the
we'd
biggest
be asking
bottleneck?
you to turn it off anyway if we had an emergency. So
John, is that the biggest bottleneck you've come into so far? Is this pump station?
With this, yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yep. That's really the only bottleneck that I see.
And it's not
Unless you
insurmountable.
tell me,
It's not insurmountable, right, John? There's definitely a solution that can
yeah,
be found.
yes, I think the easy solution is you know, increasing the volume of your wet well, or putting a, probably more likely would be putting a, you know, a tank in series with it next to it, just to increase the, you know, the storage.
Chris, do you at first glance have any concerns about that 6-inch force main?
No, I mean, I haven't seen, you know, as John said, he was going to pull together that technical document. Obviously, you know, the biggest thing with the force mains is velocity, and then storage. You know, obviously, we don't want that. We don't want the solids, you know, separating from the liquids. We don't want it. We don't want it going septic. And as long as those, you know, the velocity meets the required velocities, you know, for proper operation, then I don't know. I mean, so John, your proposed flow is 15,000 gallons per day from the facility, and then you have two 7,500 gallon tanks. So you really don't have much capacity with your pump station, your private pump station that you're proposing. You have one day there, and if you're holding the waste until the night, you have less than that. So I have to go further into that, but that's my first thought.
Yeah, what we wanted to do was do 50% of the daily capacity as like an emergency volume,
Sure.
And put a generator on it so that, you know, we didn't have to worry about losing power.
So I guess, John, back to your timing with your DOT application. When were you, is this the last thing you have out there before you submit, or do you have other items or other things you're working on for that submittal?
We were trying to get an early submission to DOT. We want to get this in before our, you know, roadway construction plans with them. That's, you know, that's a few more months out. We really want to get this going with them. One of the main reasons we want the water is the most time critical for us. Part of what's in our application, in our cover letter, and I didn't actually mention it verbally earlier, was the fact that we are going to be putting a concrete batch plant on site during construction of the facility. So we want to have water for that concrete batch plant. So that's really the critical aspect for us.
So if we were to give Chris 2 more weeks to finalize his review and get us a report, that should give him time to talk to you and see if there's any changes he's going to recommend to what you're proposing. So if we were to set up a meeting 2 weeks from tonight to revisit this instead of waiting 4 weeks till our next meeting, does that kind of work with your timing?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful.
Chris, does that timing work for you?
Yeah, if I could, through the chair, recommend that John gets these plans over to Southbridge DPW so they can start the review. The water isn't, you know, the water isn't a showstopper there, but you know, they're definitely gonna have comments. They always do. So I would say typically we send these plans through the fire department. You know, all you have is a couple of hydrants there. But inevitably, if we do not do that, then that hydrant location will change no matter where we choose it. And so those are the two. If we could get those plans to those two reviewing authorities, and you know, we'll continue on. That works for me. That way, we can get everybody on the same page.
Send it to DPW and fire. Is that what you said? Southbridge?
Yes. Southbridge DPW and the fire department in Charlton. Actually, you just send up to Kurt Meskis' office. Is he retired yet, Peter? Or?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Yeah. You can send up the building department and have Kurt give a quick look. What are there? 3 hydrants there, John? There's one at the end of the access way, and then one in the midway.
And then we've wanted our driveway, I believe.
Okay.
It's only an 800-foot extension, Chris. There shouldn't be that many hydrants that need to be added.
800, yeah, so there's,
It's 12, I think it's like 1,200 feet total.
But
So I
yeah,
think
neither
we
here nor there.
put one in our driveway, one somewhere in the middle, and then there was one at the end by Mayberry Lane already that we're maintaining.
Is the commission okay with setting up a meeting 2 weeks from tonight to continue this discussion and hopefully, again, get Chris's final review? Maybe John, you can have that technical memo ready for the pump station, or at least maybe have a little more information on what you guys might be proposing to do there for us.
Sure.
And then that hopefully that'll be enough to make the commission comfortable and giving you approval for that.
Would it be okay if Chris and I coordinated offline if there's any questions, or Chris would be happy to pull up any of our calcs we did, or
I think
Is that
that'd be great.
realistic that you guys can get that stuff done in the next 2 weeks?
like to try.
Okay.
No, John, that's fine. Just if you wouldn't mind, if you guys have some emails finalized and some of your discussions, just copy me on them so I can kind of stay up to date. That's all.
Of course.
Pete, through the chair, if I might, Pete, just a recommendation, maybe John and Chris both, if the Thursday before or the Friday before the meeting don't feel as though they have gotten all the information squared away, then we'll just kick it to our next regular scheduled meeting.
Yeah.
If that's something that they both feel, I mean, I don't want Chris getting slammed with information Friday at 5 o'clock or Monday at 10 o'clock in the morning and saying, okay, here it is, be ready for tomorrow.
Right.
Reasonably speaking, just making sure everybody has enough time to do what they need to do. And posting wise, we need to post that meeting the Friday before.
Thursday, because
So-
townhouse closed on Friday.
So
But yeah,
Thursday even. Right.
Yeah, I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure John and Chris will talk and kind of keep myself in the loop, and we'll have a better feel of if there's enough going on there. I'd like to think
Perfect.
that, Chris brought up some concerns, but nothing that seems overwhelming where it's going to take John 6 weeks to redesign or change anything on the plan. So I think we're hopefully iron out a couple of things and we should be good to go.
And one other question, in dealing with Southbridge, do you think, John, that you will have made further contact with Southbridge at that point in time and have more or less their blessing as well?
Yeah, I'll submit these plans to them tomorrow. I think the water it sounds like the easier of the two anyhow. So hopefully we can get their blessing before then.
So Southbridge has been involved in development meetings with Langdon and GFI and talk again, a lot of it focused on the fire suppression system on site. But it also had initial discussions about conceptual design of this water line extension. And again, the simple talk of, okay, we're gonna extend the 10-inch and then also abandon the 4-inch in place. And so Southbridge knows that process is happening. They're aware of that. They know that what there is for flow, and John's gonna have to prove that there's enough flow so there's no water issues with that additional 10-inch line, which I don't think there's a problem at all. And again, I think this will actually help maybe other water issues that are happening further down the line. So Southbridge, just I guess Rusty, to let you know that Southbridge has been involved in some of the preliminary designs
Sure.
that have been discussed. So we shouldn't be starting from point zero, I guess, with them.
Yep.
All right, so you don't need any action taken on this then, Peter, right? I mean, they're just gonna come back in 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah, no action tonight. And then again, just to, I guess the only other thing I had for discussion on our agenda was discussing no, that was it, just water line and sewer line extension review, so it should be good.
Thanks very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
So I think, oh, John, you're staying, right? I think Haley doesn't need to stay because she's not involved in the next project, but.
I'm out.
Good night, Haley.
Right.
So we have a 7:30 appointment again with Langdon to discuss 53 Sturbridge Road. Final site plan and usage review. So I think Chris left also because this is kind of a little bit simpler. So as part of your packet, I did include copies of the proposed site plan for 53 Sturbridge Road. This is where the Amazon facility is going. This is I believe, a 4-story building with a initial footprint of 635,000 square feet. And it is going to, connect to our existing water and sewer infrastructure. From that, at our last meeting, you gave approval for the developer to submit to Mass DOT their connection for approval. So this is just looking at the final site plan and reviewing the usage and finalizing the approval for this project to connect as well. And also, John submitted the Title V calculations for this building, which he calculated the water and sewer privilege fees. Because it's based on the same type of calculation he used for 241 Sturbridge Road, came up with 17,200 gallons of daily flow based on Title V. Because of that, based on our privilege fee policies, the water privilege fee will be $126,860 and change. And the sewer privilege fee will be $708,480. So again, the water connection here is pretty straightforward. The site lays out fairly nice, connect to existing infrastructure. John, for this sewer connection, you're proposing a sanitary sewer grinder pump. Is this also going to have reserve capacity like 241 Sturbridge Road? So you can dose the flow as well?
This one's a little different. The majority, the vast majority is going to discharge via gravity. We do have a small grinder pump, but it's just for the guardhouse at the secondary truck access. So it's literally just one man guard shack type of deal with a bathroom in there. So that's what that grinder pump's for, but everything else is going to go gravity to the existing system.
So this flow will just come in typical fashion as used. We'll see it through the gravity system.
Yes, and this is a 24/7 facility, so flows from this building should be fairly uniform throughout the entire day. And this is still upstream of that pump station we were all just talking about.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's gonna be an issue with this project now, no?
Yeah, and we're including this in these flows with the calculations we're doing when we're looking at the pump station. So it's all going to be included, but it is something that still needs to be figured out.
So, Mr. Chair, that's one of the benefits of Langdon being the engineer for both projects, is he can look at that pump station on behalf of both projects and
Absolutely.
kind of make recommendations of what needs to be done, and they can both projects.
I'm assuming they have access to that pump station and all the information from that pump station and all that stuff's been given to them, so they know that.
Our information is not great. All we do is have a daily log there where Veolia goes there and they just they track what's on the hour meter for each pump. And we have a flow meter there that's checked. So it doesn't tell you, it tells you pump 1 ran for 1.3 hours for a specific day. Pump 2 ran for 1.4. We know the pumps are 150 gallons per minute pumps. So you can figure out how much they pumped that day, but you don't know what time during that day the pumps ran. And we do know that there might have been a rag problem on one of those pumps for a certain period, And you can see that the runtime for that pump was a little bit longer for, say, 7 or 8 days until that problem was, until, Vinny went out there and got the rags out of the pump. So we have some data, but not enough to say, all right, this is exactly what we have and when, and this is what we can do to make it better.
So Peter, just as kind of a question I should probably know, but are all the pump stations like that, or are most of them more updated than that?
No, this is probably one of the most updated pump stations we have.
Okay.
Yeah,
We
they
all-
all have the same data collection. We log hour meters if they have them, and we log flow data if they have it. If not, we literally just check to make sure everything's in an okay condition.
We also have, besides the, the run times, the construction details, or at least some of them, for the, the wet well and the pump station. So we have enough to do a thoughtful analysis. It would be great if we had, minute by minute or hour by hour data, so we could see, if you always or typically have most of the flow during the day or overnight, or how that all works. But we don't, so we're running a few different analysis with some different assumptions. Getting back into just the connection request for 53 Sturbridge. Again, the water connection is the critical piece here for the same reason. We plan to put in a concrete batch plant and need water for that as well. So that is, they're looking to break ground out here soon, very soon. We should have our MEPA certificate actually in a couple days next week, and that's kind of the last puzzle piece before we can.
But we gave you that approval, John, for this site last meeting.
Okay, so do we need anything? We don't need anything further for the water. Is there a I think maybe
for water and sewer, we gave you permission to make the connection in Route 20, so you could get that Mass DOT permit.
Yep, we submitted that to Mass DOT as well.
But-
I guess I
So
just want to
then,
confirm there's nothing else we need.
yeah, I don't believe there's anything else you need from us for that portion.
Okay.
It's more
Peter.
so just, yep.
Peter, if I might, and through the chair, John, at this point in time, I would just like to, I'd like to give you a little rundown of some of the stuff that, the commission has thrown around about these projects coming to Charlton. One, we're in favor and we're happy to have you guys as new users. You do know, and you're aware that you are over the moratorium limits of what we're looking to give a normal applicant when they come through, and additional approval is always required when it meets that threshold. And you are doing a good job of looking at all the infrastructure that is affected to the pump stations before it gets to the plant. We have been doing studies and have studies that are in process about our own plant and how it works today. Not really inclusive, but trying to include what's going to happen in the future now, considering you guys. We're kind of sort of taking a chance on you guys and saying, with all of this added capacity, do we lose future capacity for other people to come along and tie in? If you understand what I'm saying.
Right.
Do you guys take up all of that capacity? And how do we say, well, we're going to let 3 big users in and now nobody else can come into Charlton, and limit ourselves business wise and from what the townspeople would like to see as far as growth in the town goes. And what we'd really like to say to you, our genuine, sincere message at this point in time is, we're all about making this project happen for you guys. And what we're looking for is a good partnership today and further down the road, so that if problems are created, not only at the infrastructure such as the the pump chamber and the wet well that hopefully you'll deal with and oversize, but also looking further into when we get our studies back and at the plant and saying, well, we didn't think of this, guys, and now you're adding between these two projects 25-30,000 gallons a day, and we're having this issue. As our new partner in Charlton, can you help us out with that? And that's the message we're looking to send in your direction. We know you're the engineer on the project. You don't speak for the developer, but hopefully you can relay that information to them and let them know that we're sincere in helping you guys out. And hopefully you're sincere in saying, yeah, if things arise in the future, we'll look into it and help you guys address those problems that we are potentially creating coming into town.
Yep. And
Thank you,
I
John.
think, yep, absolutely. No, it's good information to have. Thank you.
John, can you just give the commission a rundown about the Route 20 improvements you're gonna be making in front of our pump station? So they can
Yes.
be aware of what you're gonna be doing there on
Yep.
kind of a different aspect.
I can. I don't have a great plan pull up right now to show you, but you know what I can do is at least pull up the plan I do have, which is our utility plan. And actually, while I have you, I want to ask another question and just after I show you this. This is, you know, the utility plan. Actually, I wonder if I have a better sheet. Give me 1 second here. Let me show the roadway just a little bit better. And the roadway is still being developed. The roadway improvements plan is still being developed. So what I'm going to show you is not final. It's conceptual at this point, but it's, you know, it's a good idea of what we're planning to do. So at the driveway of the site, which is here obviously at 53 Sturbridge, we're going to be adding a turn lane, a traffic signal, and then a turn lane in to our driveway from a left turn lane in from the east, and then the right turn lane in from the west. And that's going to require, you know, a new lane in each direction, so some widening of the roadway, which as we go easterly towards your pump station, and of course my zoning chart is right in the way of where I want to show you. We kind of, there is a little bit of widening, but it starts to taper off there. Bear with me. Here we go. This is better. As we've been looking, and it's in conjunction with Vanessa and Associates, the traffic engineer, and they're the ones that are spearheading the roadway widening construction design. As we've been looking at the improvements, mainly going to the east, the widening and the site constraints and the grading, we think we may need to, where is your pump station? It's here, right here. We think we may need to grade a bit in the driveway, you know, not a lot, but as we kind of feather the grades out from the roads, you know, to existing, we may need to come to you to request some grading in your, basically in your property of that pump station there, just to make all the grades work. So we don't need, you know, retaining walls, and then just to have it all blend back together into the driveway to get down there. So that's still being worked out, but just to give you the heads up that that presentation will likely be coming at some point, you know, in the next couple of months. And maybe since we possibly need to add another tank there, maybe we're doing work there anyhow, and it all works out. The other question I wanted to have, and actually Pete, you asked me a question last week about where the meters, the water meters are going to be on site.
Yes.
And I sent you an email late today, so you probably haven't seen it yet, but we as a team have kind of resolved this, and I don't tell me if this isn't the forum to do this, but I figured while we're here, I just point this out to you. What we want to do is have a meter here in a hot box. We need a backflow preventer for the fire suppression system.
Mhm.
We'd propose to put the meter and the backflow in a hot box here. And there'd be one meter for everything. Currently, the way we had originally proposed it was our domestic water is coming in over here on this corner of the building. It's 6 not a 4. That's a typo there. And we would have a meter there, but we couldn't figure out a great place to put the meter for the fire suppression. There's a couple of, tanks here, but there's no room in the pump building. So what we want to do is put it in a hot box out here. So, and it would be located, we want to keep it somewhat close to the building because we need to run power there, right? Electric for the hot box to heat it. And apparently seeing how it meters and we have the backflow for the fire suppression system, it also needs to have a fire alarm. So we need to run conduit for the fire alarm too. So that's kind of why we chose that location.
So you're not proposing a dedicated fire suppression line and a 4-inch domestic line?
So we would have a 10-inch basically
Okay.
main,
Gotcha.
coming up from, there's a 10-inch in Sturbridge Road here. We're gonna tee in, a 3-way 10-inch tee,
Yeah.
come up our driveway, have a meter. We'd kind of
Okay.
do this with a couple 45s, meter here, go back in, still just all part of the main. And then that main feeds the tanks. And then that continues on, let me make highlighters to show you. Continues on over here, at which
Gotcha.
point right there, we would neck down from a 10 to a 6-inch for the domestic, and that comes around over here and up and into the building.
Okay.
Over here. Yep.
Is 6-inch required? That seems excessive for that.
Yeah, apparently it is. It's big building.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I mean,
Yep.
I think that hot box will work out well. That's very similar to what we just allowed to happen at the Heritage School and Middle School for their water line connections. And instead of doing a meter pit, they did that hot box where everything is located out there. It's heated. It's easy to get to work on this stuff. So,
Okay. Yeah, a lot better than a pit, I think.
Yep. so
Okay.
again, Southbridge will have a review of this as well and see what they have to say. But and I'm guessing you're probably gonna do the same thing on 241.
They had a bigger structure for the fire suppression tanks at 241, so they were actually going to put the meter,
In there.
have a dedicated meter for the fire suppression system in their pump, the fire pump room.
Okay.
Yep. So okay.
Excellent. So I guess to follow up on this is for 241 Sturbridge Road, you voted to provide a will serve letter accepting the capacity which for water and for sewer. For 53, we never really got that technical or formal with it, and I think just to kind of, if the commission doesn't have any concerns, again, I think it's pretty important that we kind of vote to do the same type of will serve letter to make sure that we're all on the same page and everything is good to go with this project as well. Especially with Mr. Jennings identifying and putting out there what our concerns are with the additional flow, and that, again, we're looking at this as a new partnership moving forward.
John Oatley, you don't see any issues with them tying in?
No, not at the domestic waste level concentration. Obviously the pump station is, as everyone has discussed, is the bottleneck. We definitely need to have a robust solution around that.
So whose job is it to come up with that solution and propose it to us? And when's that going to happen?
I think it's my job.
Okay. When is that going to happen?
Soon as humanly possible.
I mean, do you think you can have that in a couple weeks for the next meeting?
I think, yeah, I think that sounds like it's the critical item to resolve with Chris McClure before we all show up to the next hearing, at least work out the, maybe not all the nitty gritty details, but at least what the proposition is going to be to resolve that.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I think it's important that John Perry has identified it as a bottleneck and he agrees with what we're saying. And then working for a final solution that might not be, you know, I don't think he's going to have a new pump station designed in 2 weeks for us, but I think he'll have a plan of attack to come up to create a solution to remedy that problem. Right, John? So,
Correct.
so hopefully in 2 weeks when he's back in front of us for a review of the 241 Sturbridge Road, even though they're separate projects, again, fortunately he's working on both of them and they're kind of tied together here. He can also maybe go more in depth on what the solution at our pump station will look like moving forward. And that way there you're comfortable again with one, the roadway, the new infrastructure being installed in Route 20, and also comfortable with, you know, the proposed solution for our pump station. John Perry, the flow from the Amazon building, is that similar? Is there a cafeteria in there where we might have to worry about, you know, different BOD or anything like that?
No cafeteria. They'll have a, you know, break room with like, you know, vending machines, typical
floor
drinking.
drains.
I don't believe there's any floor drains. You know, they all they're gonna have in there are forklifts, and I believe those are all run off of hydrogen.
So in our discussions, Mr. Chair, any floor drains that would be in the building would go to a tight tank and would not be connected to sewer, even if there were. Correct,
Okay.
John?
Say that again.
My understanding is if there were any floor drains on either project, they would go to some type of tight tank and not be connected to the municipal sewer connection.
To my knowledge, there aren't any proposed. You know, that would be the plumbing, right down the plumbing drawings. I don't think there are any proposed. I don't think there are any vehicles proposed to be in these buildings except for forklifts. You know, I've typically done where if you do have that, you put in a oil water grit separator and go to the sanitary. But you know, that I think that they'd be fine if.
We're
a
more
tight tank.
concerned, John, about cleaning supplies, I think.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah. So
More than like
again, I'd have to confirm with the plumbing engineer, but I'm highly confident that there aren't any, you know, floor drains or vehicles being proposed.
But even like Mr. Campbell just said, a building this size, you're not talking about, you know, 2 bathrooms with 200 square feet each. You're talking about, you know, janitors going in and cleaning bathrooms, probably 5,000 square feet of tile floor where they're just gonna clean whatever, and that solution's going down the floor drain and coming to us.
I gotcha. So it's yeah. I'm thinking for some reason I'm thinking vehicles.
Yeah, no, I know you're, again, the majority of the building is warehouse, but there's also, again, office space and other restroom type areas where just that type of cleaning supplies, if the wrong type is used or too much is used, because sometimes we see it from the schools when they do a deep clean in the summertime, all of a sudden we get stuff at the plant or we get stuff that goes into the pump station that causes issues with the pump station. So.
Yeah, and given it's a gravity line, Peter, it'd be challenging to try to sample it. So yeah, it's all good points.
So any floor drains in the bathrooms or any like janitor's closets you want on a tight tank?
Just some type. I think we need to see scale, right? Because all I see is a rectangle on a piece of paper. We don't know how big the restrooms are. We don't know what type of flow we're going to be seeing. It's just something that we've run into problems with before. And it's just something that we want to put out there to say, yeah, floor drains can be an issue. I think if it was floor drains, if it in the In the warehouse area, yes, definitely into a tight tank.
Yeah, so they like sometimes they have like mops and closets in these facilities, and they open up the closet and there's like a big basin sink and a floor drain area where they dump like mop buckets and whatnot into.
I can
Maybe
bring it
just-
up. Yeah, I can bring it up with the design team and the plumbing engineer. I know they've been talking with building official and I don't know if any of that's come up. I haven't been involved with those.
Yeah, if it's just, it's not, it's just a concern that we have, and really, we haven't seen I haven't seen it, nor, I guess, do I need to, because that's all plumbing code anyways, but I just need to know what we can kind of expect, and if we can kind of limit our exposure to that a little bit, that would be great.
Okay.
And we can talk about that further.
Yeah, like Pete said, with a facility this size, I mean, you could have a 4,000 square foot bathroom.
So I guess it, to be consistent with what we did on 241 Sturbridge Road, and again, with the whole moratorium for new users over 10,000 gallons per day. The commission isn't, I know there are concerns that I think we will be able to address. So if they don't, if you guys are comfortable, maybe we can vote to provide a will serve letter for this project as well for 17,280 gallons of Title V flow.
Does anybody want to make a motion? This this letter that you need, John, would it hamper if there was a 2-week delay in this letter for this project also?
I know that the developer is looking to get formal approval because they need it for their closing, which is happening. I don't know the exact date, but very soon.
So John, you express the immediate need. You need approval on the water side of things. I think the water side of things is easy. The sewer side of things is the more complicated. Is it something we break it down into two at this point in time and say, okay, we have no issue with the water whatsoever. On the sewer side of things, we're going to be discussing that further at our next meeting in 2 weeks. And do we want to cover that then?
Or conditional, maybe a conditional approval or something like that. And
I guess, Mr. Jennings, what's more information other than the pump station, maybe redesign, would you want to see within the next 2 weeks?
I don't know. I'm really just, I'm throwing it out there for all the other commissioners and, question to you even, Peter. And I guess you're giving me your response on that.
So like you said, water is pretty straightforward. I think water, we're in a situation where the more users, the more flow, the better we are. As far as sewer goes, I don't see this. And again, I've talked with John Oatley about this to make sure that he doesn't see this as having additional strain to our current plant. I think because it's just straight sanitary flow. There's no process waste going into it. Our plant can definitely handle that additional flow. Our average daily use is 200,000 gallons per day. So we're not even at 50% of our design flow. So as far as a straight flow concern, we're not close to getting there. I understand the strength of our waste because of other users might be high. But the strength of this waste should not put that much of an additional burden on that to cause concern. again, we've identified, and I think John was on the line when Mr. Oatley went through the engineering study we're doing. So we're definitely in the steps of, doing the study and performing our own due diligence to see what we can do to make our plant run more efficiently. And, you've made them aware that if we come up with a solution, we might be coming back to them as one of the larger users to help us, make that solution happen. And, John Perry's also, he agrees that our pump station on Route 20 is an issue, and he's looking at, performing a redesign and making improvements to it so that both of these projects will not overwhelm that issue. So
let me take a stab at this, Peter. John would be looking for a will serve letter for both water and sewer.
yes, I think formally that lets him know that we're willing to provide them that capacity
Okay,
of
so
water
how
and
about-
sewer.
Through the chair, if I might, I'll make a motion that we provide the will serve letter for water and sewer conditional upon items resolved under the peer review questions posed by McClure Engineering.
So that peer review is for a different site.
Well, isn't he peer reviewing this site as well?
He is not, because there's no infrastructure improvement, so it's straightforward. Anything that they're doing on their property, they own and are responsible for.
Doesn't it overlap into the pump station?
Yes.
I mean, this pump station covers that project as well as this one.
Correct.
I mean, you can't say that, okay, well, it didn't work out for that. It didn't work out for that site up there, but we're still gonna do it. And it doesn't work out gallons per day or,
Sure.
I mean,
No. So
I have a suggestion. So again, just talking out loud, we can give them approval for the water, because again, I don't think that there's an issue with that, and that's what John's looking for. That's the most important piece of his puzzle tonight, right, John? And then we've given them, a tie-in, which means that we can give them 9,999 gallons of water approved tonight, and let's discuss this pump station over the next 2 weeks, and let's come back and have a vote on the sewer end of things in 2 weeks, if that's not going to screw you up, John.
Yeah, again, I don't know the timing exactly what they need for their closing. But could I suggest a will serve letter for the sewer that doesn't tie it to the peer review, but just ties it to resolving any capacity issues that any capacity issues at that pump station?
all right, let me take another stab at it here. I'll make a motion that we provide the will serve letter for both sewer and water, provided all capacity related issues to the pump station and the treatment plant are covered.
So the capacity issue is not only for the pump station, but also to the plant.
That's what I said, the plant and the
Correct.
pump station.
I just want to make sure that was clear.
Does the plant have capacity issues, or is it just the pump station?
The plant has capacity issues.
I don't think we were planning to look at the plant. We were just planning to look at the pump station.
Well, as Peter stated earlier, there really isn't the capacity issue at the plant, but how that pump station relates to down gradient of that, is that a question? I don't know. That's part of what Chris would be covering.
Yeah, I think what Vinny was concerned about was, at a maximum flow rate of your pump station, would it exceed the maximum headworks flow allowed, right? Vinny, is that what you're describing?
Yeah,
Correct.
the flow of the other property's pump station can actually put out more than our plant's peak design influence. And that wouldn't include any other customers. But that was on the other property. This property is completely different.
It isn't.
as far as
It's gonna be the same issue at the plant.
It's all coming to the same bottleneck where
Right.
it doesn't matter
It's-
if it, as we discussed, it's the same engineer. So it's the same projects on both. They both affect it. We can't differentiate one from the other because they're both at the same time.
So
And they're gonna be
guess
going into
Vinny-
the same spot.
So Vinny, John was saying that only one pump runs at a time. So if we have 250 gallon per minute pumps at our pump station, that's three. Do our pumps run at the same time?
Our pumps are capable of running at the same time when
So-
needed.
Yeah,
So
at
let me,
times
let me-
they need to, but
Gentlemen, if I might, let me throw out a crazy, uneducated question to John. John, if you put 6 tanks in at that wet well in that pump station before it, would that resolve the problem? And there wouldn't be a problem down at our plant because it would be spread out throughout those 6 tanks, and then there would be never any issue, and you could douse it down to our treatment plant so that it came in when it didn't affect it.
Yeah,
Could that
if we
be a
don't,
solution?
yes. Yes, I
Okay,
think that is.
so
the
you
solution.
have the ability to create a solution that is not going to hamper our plant. All you
If we
have to
don't-
do is figure it out and resolve it with Vinny and John Oatley so that their problems are addressed and their concerns are addressed, and there's no overflowing our system,
Yeah,
downgrading it.
if the solution is to not modify the pumps, your pumps that go at 150 gallons a minute, but just to add volume, holding volume, it really doesn't matter what pump rate our project at 241 Sturbridge is going at. It could be 1,000 gallons a minute. It's just going into the holding tank so that your 150 gallon per minute pumps, they're still going to be pumping that same rate. We just want to make sure that the volume in the holding tank isn't exceeded and overflows. Does that make sense? Hopefully.
it does. I just think that, I mean, the concern might be you might have wanted to look at maybe increasing the pumps on the backside of the pump station in order to accommodate.
We
Pumps on
may
the front
actually
side,
too.
yeah.
We may, we'll just need to make sure that that works with
Sure.
your plan.
And I think
And
that's.
I
what
want,
the
I want you
issue
guys to
is,
keep
yeah.
in mind too, when you're designing this, that, that line's gonna be now in front of X amount of more users also, which we don't know who that's gonna connect to at some point in time. And that's something
Yeah,
that
I
we have
would
to look at as a
definitely,
board.
I definitely think it's important to look at the station, not only under the existing condition, but have some capacity beyond the existing condition.
Well,
I
and that's why the motion should cover both locations and give John what he wants, realizing that he's got to look further downstream, not just stop at that pump station.
Right.
Is there a second on the motion?
I can second that motion.
All right.
So I mean,
Can
we
you
can,
repeat the motion, Peter?
we can continue discussion. I just wanted to make sure there was a second on the motion so it didn't get lost. That's all.
Can you repeat that motion, Russ, just so it's clear for everybody?
The motion is to provide the will serve letter for both water and sewer, considering both the pump station and the plant capacity, and making sure that is addressed.
Can I request a clarification? The will serve for the water is not tied to the will serve for the sewer. Are they separate? I don't want the
We can-
water.
We can make
Will
that
serve.
separate motions.
Yeah, we
Yep.
can do that.
We can have 2 votes, one for water, one for sewer. Water will not be tied to the capacity issues at the plant or the wet well.
So to keep this clean, Russ, you want to withdraw your motion and then we can just kind of start over?
Sure.
Cam, do you withdraw your second?
Or withdraw my second on the previously stated motion.
So Russ, do you want to make a motion for water?
I'll make a motion that we provide the will serve letter for water.
And I will second that.
Roll call vote, Peter.
All right, Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagner,
aye,
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Campbell.
All right,
All right, now I'd like to make a motion to provide the will serve letter for the sewer, provided that capacity issues for the wet well and the plant are addressed.
And I will second that motion as well.
just wondering, Russ, if we want to add to that motion that, you know, addressed and satisfied to whose satisfaction is the Veolia's satisfaction?
I would defer to Peter for language.
Who's
I
gonna
would
certify, Peter, and verify that those issues are taken care of and are met?
You, the commission, based on input from myself and Veolia.
Okay,
All that should go back to you, because again, you guys have the ultimate decision, so I think to keep it consistent, it'll come back to you with, again, review and input from myself and Veolia, based on what John provides for design.
I think it's relatively straightforward. Once Chris McClure, Vinny and John are all comfortable, we're comfortable. It's very simple.
perfect. All right, we have a second, Peter, roll call vote. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Go ahead, Peter.
Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagner,
aye,
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
All right. Great. Thank you, John. Perry.
I have
appreciate
one
it.
more question, if you don't mind.
No?
Right,
Do
John.
we need, I guess, Peter, you or someone to, the permit application that we submitted?
Mhm.
Does that get signed or stamped, or do we need anything to physically, go out there and complete the water connection? Assuming we get Mass DOT and Southbridge, everyone else to sign off, what mechanism, or is this vote here that mechanism?
Well, this vote gives me the authority to sign off on that application. So the next step will be for your contractor to come down and become a licensed drain. Actually, because it's for water, it's a two-step process. Again, we'll do an initial review of the site plan, which is already done. It's pretty straightforward, that connection. So we'll sign off on it, and then your contract will have to become a licensed drain layer in Southbridge because it's water. And then he can pull the permit to connect. After we sign off, he'll go to Southbridge for that connection permit. And
Okay,
then it'll be good to go.
okay. I think that's already in the works. It's Vinagro that's doing the site work.
Yep. Yeah, they've been calling, so I'm not sure where he is in reference to Southbridge, but
Okay,
he
I'll
should
check
be-
with him.
he should be moving forward.
Okay.
I'm not
Thank-
sure. I'm not sure exactly what he submitted here. I know Sue has some paperwork from him to become a licensed drain layer for sewer, because sewer is here only. He has to become licensed here for that. So it's definitely moving forward on the sewer side as well.
Okay.
But as far as
Very good.
water, I don't know where he is with Southbridge.
I'll check in with him.
All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
All right, well, that was fun and exciting. Moving on, new
Alright.
business, Peter.
Sure. Just real quick. Thanks, John Oatley
Yeah.
and Vinny for staying on.
Oh, yeah.
No problem. My pleasure. I'll be in touch, Pete.
All right, great.
Thank you, John.
Good night, everyone.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Vinny. All right, moving on, new business.
Yeah, so next up on the agenda is our 2021 annual report. Sue was nice enough to kind of track everything that kind of happened in 2021, and we kind of put it into an annual report for your review. It was attached to the agenda. just need approval or review or comments. We can make changes if there's anything you want to see added or changed. And then we can submit this to Mary Devlin in the Selectman's office to put into the annual report booklet.
Any questions, guys? Somebody want to make a motion?
I've reached my motion capacity.
All right, somebody else is up on the docket then. Guys, can I get somebody to make a motion, please, just to accept this annual report?
I will make the motion to accept the 2021 annual report.
Thank you, Cameron.
Second,
Thank you, Russell. Go ahead, Pete.
Mr. Redlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagner,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Next up under new business, the police department is going to be extending, well, maybe not extend, they're going to be extending the water line on Masonic Home Road in the shoulder of the road to get water to the, or they're proposing to do, to get water to the police station to help with their water supply issues from their private well. As part of this, as part of our privilege fee policy, it doesn't say that town buildings are exempt from being assessed a privilege fee. In the past, there have not been any types of betterments or privilege fees assessed to town-owned buildings for water or sewer connections. I'm talking to the town administrator. He asked that I present this to you for a formal vote to waive the privilege fee to connect this building to the water line.
Did they end up connecting that building, Peter? Is it above ground? Is it underground?
The police department, no, it's still in the McClure is doing the design of that kind of water line extension. And they're gonna be going out to bid fairly soon. The construction hasn't taken place yet.
Okay. It's been an issue for a while now.
Yes. Their water supply from their current well, yes, it's been an issue for a while.
Yeah.
But again, in the past, it's kind of like, again, granted, we have different budgets and different funding mechanisms. It's still like taking money from one hand and putting it in the other, so.
Sure. All right, can somebody make a motion to waive that fee, please?
I'll make a motion to waive the privilege fee for the new connection to the police department.
Oh, Paul, thank you. I get a second?
I will second that.
All right, Peter, roll call vote.
Mr. Redlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagner,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
All right.
Old business water line construction update.
Yes, so there's not a lot going on, so we'll just kind of reiterate that the final date for residents to request a connection to the new school loop water line is April 6th, 2022, which is hopefully it'll be warm by then and is fast approaching. Service connections, again, the construction season is over, so Albanese Brothers has not done, they have not been doing much earthwork at this time. They were able to finalize the water line connections at the Heritage and Middle Schools. So both of those schools are now connected permanently and flowing water. So that helped them avoid different issues for each school. So I think they're very happy that they're connected to town water and not having to deal with any of their water line issues, their private water issues that they used to have. And again, this reduced work will probably continue until spring when the next construction season begins. So there's really not much to report on there.
Hey, Peter, a question on that. While I was actually dropping my nephew off down there, grandnephew down there at school today, I noticed that the hydrants are still covered. They still have bags on the hydrants. Even though that's operational down there, they haven't chosen to open those hydrants. Is that what's going on, or?
No, there's one portion of water line on Oxford Road. So from Morton Station Road east on Oxford Road, that portion is not active yet. That's why that hydrant is still bagged. The
Oh,
hydrants,
so the front loop, or the back loop, once it goes past the schools, basically,
correct.
that's not
So-
active?
No, so the water flow goes straight across Morton Station Road into the middle school
Yep.
driveway and then out to
Yep.
the Heritage School.
Yep, and
Now-
then
now-
back, right?
No, it just dead ends there. That's why that loop, that full loop is not active because that portion of Oxford Road is not turned on yet.
Okay,
So they'll probably end up flushing that and activating that in the spring now that both schools are online and flowing.
gotcha. Okay, I
So
was
that's what-
just wondering, it was like, it was weird to me why that wasn't,
Yeah.
why those weren't activated, but.
Yeah, it's probably
I
just like
understand.
2 hydrants right there are at the beginning of Oxford Road. The rest of the hydrants are all unbagged on Morton Station, Old Worcester, Mugget Hill Road.
I think I counted 3 or 4.
Yeah,
That
could
were
have been.
bagged up, so. Yep. Okay. Thank you for addressing that.
I believe that, I'm pretty sure that's why they're back. That portion is just not active yet.
Okay.
All
We
right,
should
so-
think about, in the springtime, Peter, putting together some type of schedule to do some hydrant flushing, actually. It's something that we haven't done in a couple of years now.
No, Southbridge flushes annually, biannually.
Oh, they do?
Yep.
The one thing,
because-
that hasn't been done, Dave, is that the gates haven't been exercised and gate boxes cleaned out. I think that needs to go on the list, Peter.
Yes,
I think that's a big area of concern that, especially with potential corrosion in the system. And those boxes getting salt and sand down in them and, road debris. It'll be a bit of a process that people will have to probably go through and clean those out first, whether they blow them out or vac them out. And then be able to exercise those hydrants or those gate valves.
I wasn't aware that Southbridge did that, Peter.
yes, no, again, they operate the system, so they flush it. They flush different portions at different times. So
All right, so
our
our next meeting is gonna be what, 2 weeks from today?
Yeah, so it'll be February 22nd, 2/22/22.
Oh boy, what a day.
What a day. Possibly. So if Chris McClure and John Perry are able to get their stuff ironed out and they have something to report, we'll have the meeting. If by Thursday it appears that they're not going to be ready, then we'll just push it off until our March 8th meeting.
Sounds good.
All right.
Sounds good. Let's see, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All right, boy, Paul. Second,
And I'll second that as well.
all right. Go ahead, Peter.
Mr. Redlack,
Aye.
Mr. Gagnon,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
All right.
All right, great. Thank you, everyone.